What's up, everybody? This is the Sports League podcast, back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got the co-host Amanda back on. Thanks for coming on, Amanda.
Always, Alex. Hi, everybody. Hope you guys are all having a good night.
Yep, hell yeah. And week two is in the books, and it was a great week of football. Lots of action, and I hope everyone's teams did well. Let's start it off with your Packers at the Falcons. The Packers led 24 to 12 going into the fourth quarter, but the Falcons rallied to win 25-24 in Atlanta. What were your thoughts on this game and how I mean Jordan Love looked pretty good once again.
We made our picks on Friday before the official injury lists were out. We knew Christian Watson was tentatively not in. Aaron Jones is always on the questionable list, and then normally it's a game time decision and he's good. David Bakhtiari is on the questionable list every week. Had I known all three of them were not playing, because I would say they're three-quarters of our offense right there.
Yep.
I wouldn't have picked the Packers to win on the podcast. So once the injury list came out, I corrected that pick Sunday morning. And I mean, it was a 1 point game. If we had any one of the three in the game, I mean, if Jordan Love had a little bit longer to hold on to the ball and make better decisions, if we had a second running back, I mean, AJ Dillon had a great game, but if Aaron Jones was there, that would have been enough to win. Christian Watson, we just didn't have our star receiver. So I think any one of the three of them would have been the difference to win that game. Um, I just I think we missed our offense. Our defense did what they could. They held off pretty well. But I think it was just, missing three-quarters of our starting best players on the offense that made the difference there. It was a 1 point game. I mean, I can't really complain
Yeah.
about it.
And then on top of that, so you're missing three key guys on offense. You would think that would affect Jordan Love. He's going up against a better defense than Chicago. All those things wrapped up, I expected Jordan Love to struggle and come back down to earth a little bit. Once again, three touchdowns, no turnovers. You have to be happy with Jordan Love so far.
Yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm obviously trying not to get my hopes up because fans have been spoiled for a couple decades now. So I am not expecting, him to be the next Tom Brady or anything, but so far pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. And what did you think of the Falcons? Uh, how did they look to you? You got, Desmond Ritter, who's in a similar situation as Jordan Love, trying to prove himself. A lot of talent on that team. Bijan Robinson looked good. Drake London, Kyle Pitts. What do you think of the Falcons in that game?
I mean, Bichon did great. He had 172 scrimmage yards. He looked great. I think that the Falcons offense came together in the fourth quarter, which is when Green Bay's fell apart. They overcame a double-digit deficit. They came back to win the game. Desmond Ritter was lucky he only had one interception, though. There were
Hmm.
two other times when the ball should have been picked. We just, didn't get our hands on it. So he's not making the best decisions all the time, but it worked out in his favor. And their red zone offense is a bit of a mess right now. So I mean, they went 2 for 5 in the red zone, which is shows good things about Green Bay's defense in that situation, but that's pretty disappointing for them as an offense to pull off a win, but barely against a team who wasn't really playing their best either.
Yeah, and I think quarterback is the issue in Atlanta. I love those weapons. Bijan Robinson, looking at the highlights, looking at his plays in that game, he reminds me of prime Saquon Barkley or prime Todd Gurley. Like he looks great. He looks elite. Get the ball in his hands and let him go to work. I was listening to Move the Sticks podcast with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks, and they said, take this Falcons offense and replace Desmond Ritter with Kirk Cousins, and that team could go deep into the playoffs. Do you agree with that? I mean, that's a lot of weapons, and maybe they could use an upgrade at that quarterback position.
Oh man, that's a lot to unpack.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
but
mean, the
but
kid's good on his
imagine,
feet. He
yeah,
definitely fills some of the Kirk Cousin gaps. That would be interesting. They
yeah,
had definitely have very different strengths. I will say the Falcons defense I mean, they made a lot of changes in the offseason. They fully revamped it. They looked so
Yeah.
good. Like Calais Campbell, obviously we know he's good, but man, he ate up Packers against the run. Like Caden Ellis, he was insane. But Dupree had some big pressure later in the game. Um, I mean, I think Atlanta's a bit of a sleeper team. I mean,
Yeah.
they're starting the season, where none of us thought they would be. And Desmond Ritter hasn't lost at home as a starting QB in his career. He's 4-0. So, it'll be interesting to see how their season plays out.
Yeah, 2-0 is a good start, and we'll see how they go throughout the season. I still think they're a 7-10, 8-9, 9-8 at best team, and I do think Ritter's the one that holds them back. But we'll see. 2-0, you can't complain about that if you're a Falcons fan.
Yeah, agreed.
Let's go Raiders Bills. The Raiders take a 7-0 lead on the opening drive, but that's about as good as it would get as the Bills win easily, 38-10, in a statement bounce back win for the Bills that they needed. Josh Allen looked great, three touchdowns, no turnovers, which he needed after that four turnover performance in week one. You got to be happy to see Josh Allen bounce back.
Oh, I mean, I love that kid. I think the Bills played how we expect them to. I think week one was an off week for a lot of great quarterbacks, and the ones who had, just needed to shake off the week one loss and, prove that they're in it to win it. They're back where they should be. And then other quarterbacks, I mean, Joe Burrow, for example,
Hmm.
aren't quite what we thought they were. But I mean, Josh Allen played exactly as I expected. The Bills ran the ball so well. And that's been one of their struggles in recent seasons. Um, I mean, they trusted the run early and I think they had 180 plus yards on the ground. So I think they
Yeah,
looked really good.
yeah,
I do think the Raiders have some issues
yeah,
that they need to work out. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was embarrassed. I mean, I don't even remember Devontae Adams touching the ball. I know he made some plays, but like it was a damn shame that they were just such a mess.
yeah. Only scored 10 points. Devontae Adams did. He caught the only touchdown pass. So the Raiders didn't do much, but if they did anything, it was because of Devontae Adams. Jacoby Myers out with a concussion. And I just don't see this Raiders team being very talented. I don't trust Jimmy G to stay healthy, let alone lead this team deep into the playoffs. So I think it's going to be a long year for Vegas. And at its core, I don't trust the head coach. I think Josh McDaniels is going to be the downfall of this team, and I think it's going to be a long year for Raiders fans.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there are some struggles too beyond the coaching.
Hmm.
I think there's a morale issue. I mean, Josh Jacobs is great, but he went for -2 yards on 9 runs.
Yeah,
That's insane to me. Like we know that kid has talent, and yet he's out there just not producing anything. And I mean, granted, had they played a team that didn't, remember who they were and show up and play and come to win, it could have been a different game. But man, it was very lackluster. It was one of the more boring games of the week.
absolutely. It was over quickly, and I agree with you about Josh Jacobs is probably still pretty unhappy. Chandler Jones is threatening to expose the team on Twitter and stuff like that, and
Yeah. Can I
saying,
can I drop an interesting Josh Jacobs stat?
yeah.
So last year he was the rushing leader in the
Mhm.
NFL. He recorded the fewest rushing yards in a single game by the reigning rushing leader in any game since 1950.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, and we know he's capable of being the rushing leader again. Like the talent just doesn't go away, but there's obviously something going on there,
Mhm.
and I don't think it goes away anytime this season. Really, I think it's going to be a long year.
Agreed. Agreed.
Uh, Ravens at Bengals. Great game. This was one of the games of the week, and in Cincy, I think the way the Bengals looked so bad in Week 1, a lot of people contributed that to the weather or the Browns' defense, probably a little bit of both. And so the home game against the Ravens, we all expected the Bengals to bounce back and show up, and they did. They played better, but still some mistakes, still some issues. And the Ravens come out with a 27-24 win in Cincinnati. Bengals start 0-2, Ravens start 2-0. What's your biggest takeaway from this game?
Um, I mean, it was a close game. I think there were some drops that could have been really important, plays that just didn't work out. I just think Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Duvernay, I think they're just the offense for Baltimore is just clicking so well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're a hard team to face right now. Um, and I mean, Cincinnati still needs to, sort out their issues, find their footing this season. But it's tough. I picked the Bengals to come back this week. I thought it was going to be a close game, but I picked them to come back. You had that pick right. But I don't feel too bad about getting it wrong because it was a 3-point game. So I'm gonna cut myself a little bit of slack there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, Todd Monken's offense is taking shape. It looks good. It's coming together. Um, so I think it'll be interesting to see where that takes them this season.
Yeah, and there was some questions about the Ravens offense after week one. I think the big thing that helped them in week two is getting Mark Andrews back. Him and
Mhm.
Lamar have great chemistry, and he seems to be more than any other receiver his comfort zone, his go-to guy. And similar to Kelsey in Kansas City, Mark Andrews being there for Lamar is huge. Um, and then Joe Burrow playing through, he supposedly re-injured his calf strain. He had a hard time walking off the field at the end of the game, kind of limping. So this is a dangerous spot for the Bengals to be in, sitting at 0-2, and they haven't even confirmed that Joe Burrow is going to play in week three.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
I mean,
it,
around
yeah,
halftime, the fans started booing him. Like that's not going to help. I noticed like a weird limp starting to happen early in the third quarter. I thought maybe I was seeing things, he was just kind of stretching it out. But he did admit it started bugging him during the game. But I mean, when you're in pain, you're facing a good team and your fans aren't supporting you, like it's going to be hard to pull off a win. Like it's going to be hard to get out of your head and leave it all in the field.
yeah. And I think the fans are just assuming that Joe Burrow is completely healthy and expecting the offense to look like, most of these fans nowadays, they play Madden and they use the Bengals and throw up 40, 50 points every time they play. So they just expect it to be easy. They think Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, along with Joe Burrow, that they're just going to put up 40 points every game, and that's just not how the NFL works, especially when you got nagging injuries involved.
Yeah, I mean, they started to click in the third and fourth quarters. There were some really good offensive plays, a lot of short passes. They were moving pretty well. But I just don't think it was enough to come back and win that one with the calf strain involved. I think had Joe Burrow been feeling a bit better and his leg wasn't bugging him, they could have come back and pulled that one off for sure.
Yeah, and I said it all offseason. The Ravens, the moves they made, a happy Lamar Jackson, just adding Roquan Smith to that defense, they're a Super Bowl caliber team on paper. And a 2-0 start, a big win on the road in the division. Let's see how far this Ravens team can go because they're the last 2 years when the Bengals won the division, Lamar got hurt. So if Lamar can stay healthy, who knows how far this Ravens team can go?
So we call in a Ravens Bills AFC Championship game or
I won't go that far yet,
well,
but
we each have our NFC teams we're loyal to, but I know we have our AFC favorites. So it would be interesting if it came down to the two of them for sure.
oh yeah, absolutely. What did you think? Go ahead and break down the Seahawks Lions real quick.
Oh God, that was a mess. I have an issue with Seahawks fans, so I kind of always have a bit of a grudge there. I have enjoyed watching the Lions be someone besides the Lions. Last week they played so well. I was hoping they, would show up and win again this week, but I mean they played some Detroit football. They did whatever they could to lose. And like
Hmm.
it was a close game, it went into overtime, but they're I mean, Geno Smith made up for his mistakes, and Jared Goff just did not.
Yep.
And I think it comes down to just very, very simple, minute mistakes that were made. And the correct team won. I mean, DK Metcalf played so well. Noah Fant was great. Tyler Lockett was obviously great. He came off with that walk-off touchdown there.
Hmm.
But the Lions were just not blocking. I don't know what was happening late in the game, but they were dropping so many blocks and just it obviously came back to bite them in the ass.
Yeah, and I think the big story with Jared Goff has been the interception streak. And I called it in this game saying it was going to end in this game. I got the wrong player. I said Quandre Diggs. It ended up
Okay.
being who was it that got that pick?
It
Um,
was
starts with a
Trey
T.
Brown.
Trey Brown, yeah.
Yep.
And that was and not just a pick, but a pick
The
six.
pick
And that
six. Yep.
that really swung the momentum. It put the Seahawks up 2 scores. Credit to the Lions for fighting back and forcing overtime, but then the defense couldn't make a stop. Seahawks get the ball and march down and win the game. Um,
I think a lot of the defense's failure for Detroit was their cornerback Jerry Jacobs. He had
hmm.
one of the worst games I've seen a cornerback play. He
Yeah,
was targeted on 8 catches and he let them catch all 8 of them
damn.
for 85 yards and a touchdown. Like that, I mean, that man's got to be beating himself up this week. Like that was a bad game for him for sure. And
Yeah.
Seattle's backups, I mean, they had injuries in the game. Seattle was dropping players left and right. But their backup players showed up really well. Their OTs, Stone Forsythe, who I'd never even heard of, and Jake
Hmm.
Curhan, no penalties, no QB hits, no sacks. They played great. So they've definitely worked out their first and second string and they've got people to step in when they need to, which is always important.
Yeah, it doesn't help for the Lions that CJ Gardner Johnson, their big acquisition this offseason, the guy who's, bringing that swag to the defense, he's hurt. He's now on IR and going to miss the next 4 games. He missed this game against Seattle. So, not a great start there with injuries. And to me, this just exemplifies this is a typical Lions loss. Like we talked about it last week on the podcast, where the Lions get a big win over the Chiefs that's unexpected, and now the home fans are buying the hype, and Ford Field is rocking for their home opener, and they're expected to beat the Seahawks, and they come out here and they lose. And now everyone can say, well, look, same old Lions, right?
I mean, I've never been a Lions fan, being a Green Bay fan, I haven't really had an opportunity to root for the Lions. Why would I do that? This year, it's been nice trying to believe in them, but I mean, I felt strongly like a Detroit fan on Sunday, and it was rough. I feel bad for them. I can't imagine going through that every week.
Yeah, they invent ways to lose. Like they don't
Well,
just
they
lose
try
games.
to.
Yeah. Um,
He does hate the Lions, doesn't he?
who does?
God. One of my friends always says that. He's like, "Oh no, it's fine. God hates Detroit." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I believe it. Ever since like what? I mean, the Tigers have had bad luck. The Pistons, the last time that Detroit's had any success was when Ben Wallace and the Pistons got it done.
Man, yeah.
2004. Yeah.
They've they've had a tough couple decades. So let's move on from one of the picks I got wrong. Colts Texans. We disagreed on that pick, and I was right in mine. We did
Hmm.
really like that rookie QB matchup. It was really fun to see them play off against each other. Anthony Richardson just came through. I think a lot of the game came down to him, and they pulled it off. How are you feeling about that pick?
So, it's a battle of two rookie quarterbacks, so you can kind of like, you know, that's just a guess, really. I thought the Texans defense looked pretty good in their opener. But the Colts are the better team. I'm seeing that. Anthony Richardson started out great. He had 2 rushing touchdowns early, had the Colts up 14-0, and then leaves the game with a concussion.
Yeah, I think they were trying to win it for him.
Yeah,
Because I mean, he started that game out hot, and Gardner Minshew, I mean, hello, backup quarterback. He played so well. What do you have?
he
2 consecutive
yeah,
touchdown drives?
Yeah, he played well. The team played well, and they got it done. And Houston really, the Texans are going to be a process here. They're still building something. But credit to the Colts for winning without Jonathan Taylor. Minshew comes in, and they don't really miss a beat without Anthony Richardson. They still take care of business, put up, 31 points. So, good win for the Colts. And the Texans are going to be a work in progress. They're probably a 5-6 win team at best this year.
I think if the Texans could fix their O-line situation, they would have much more of a shot because you and I both like CJ Stroud. He got wrecked in that game. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm surprised he didn't have an injury. He was hit 9 times, sacked 6 times. He lost a fumble in the first quarter, which is not a great way to start the game anyway. It set up that Indianapolis touchdown at the beginning. I mean, when he did have time to throw, he was great. But
Yeah.
it's really hard to get the ball out and get it to the right person and make a play when your O-line isn't holding anyone back.
Yeah, and so it's going to be a work in progress. They're going to have to address that in the offseason. And hopefully, in the meantime, they don't get CJ Stroud killed or lack of confidence or something like that, in the process. So, uh, I've seen that plenty with my Bears quarterbacks, and we'll get to that in a few. But,
Yeah.
um, yeah, but good win. And so, real quick, do you trust this is 2 games now that Anthony Richardson's got hurt? 2 NFL games in his career, 2 games he's got hurt. Do we trust Anthony Richardson is big, he's built like an NFL quarterback, but he runs a lot, takes a lot of hits. Can he stay healthy?
I mean, I like the kid. I
Yeah,
want to say yes, but there's been so many injuries in the past week. I don't have faith that anyone can stay healthy.
yeah.
There's been some gruesome injuries this week. So I would say it's a matter of time before he gets hit and just doesn't get back up. I mean, CJ Stroud survived that game by I don't even know how he did it. And Anthony Richardson, he makes some ballsy plays. I can see it coming down to a knee situation with him if he doesn't um learn to sacrifice a little bit, like sacrifice the run, sacrifice the glory a little bit, protect yourself. Because he's ballsy. And
Yeah.
it's fun to watch, but it's not going to be fun if he gets injured.
Yeah, he has a tendency to want to run over defenders, and that's how he got the side of his head hit.
Hmm.
He needs to do a little bit more of sliding and running out of bounds just to take less hits and
Yeah.
hopefully stay healthier that way.
I mean, he's playing well though. I mean, he's the first Colts quarterback to have 2+ rushing touchdowns in a first quarter since 1999.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, it's paying off, but he keeps having to pay the penalty in injuries. And luckily they've been relatively mild injuries, but I'll be interested to see what happens next week and how much playtime Minshew gets.
yeah, I hope Richardson's good to go and can play a full game. That's what I want to see. But I tweeted about it. I said after seeing, the Colts go up 14-0, I said like, how can you look at Anthony Richardson and not see that he's talented as hell? Like
Yeah.
I know some Colts fans that are like, "Oh, they should have drafted Will Levis. They should start Gardner Minshew. He's the better quarterback." Like, what in the hell are you guys watching? Like Anthony Richardson, he looks like Cam Newton with a better arm, more accurate. Like he looks the part. So,
Oh, I
and
agree with that comparison. I
and
like that.
he's got a faster 40 than Justin Fields and Justin Jefferson. So,
Jesus.
he's a weapon for sure.
He is. You keep him healthy, I think you're set.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of weapons and arms, Chiefs, Jags. The Chiefs
Hmm.
pulled off a win. Patrick Mahomes won on his birthday. I had a feeling that would happen. Something about that man. It's really hard to pick against him. It was nice
Yeah.
to see some of the Jaguars, the younger players, get some playtime, some good action in the game. But I mean, the Jags just missed a lot of opportunities. And Kansas City looked like they were trying to give that game away for a bit. I mean, there were
Yeah.
muffed punts, there were drop passes. The Jags just did not take advantage of any of those opportunities. And I know you had picked the Jags to win. How frustrating was that for you to watch?
I mean, well, it was. it gave me confidence. I mean, if we had said last week on the podcast, if I had said the Chiefs are only going to score 17 points, I think we would both have picked the Jags to win, right?
I mean, yeah, for sure. But I also didn't see Patrick Mahomes given the ball away 3 times in the first half of the game either. So it was
Yeah.
definitely not the game I predicted it was going to be. We both thought it was going to be a shootout. I thought it was going to be lower 30s, upper 20s, lots of offense, and it was not that at all. It was a mess and very strong defense on both sides.
Yeah, it was positive to because they kept the Chiefs score down, and so they were stayed in the game. I mean, even until the final drive, 17-9, it's still a one score game. But I noticed, yeah, a lot of missed opportunities. Trevor Lawrence didn't quite look himself on Sunday. He missed some throws he usually made, and especially in the end zone. Like I think he had 3 or 4 passes to Calvin Ridley alone in the back of the end zone that were just slightly too high or too far into the back of the end zone where Ridley would catch it or almost catch it and he wouldn't be able to get 2 feet down. I think Christian Kirk had a play like that. Multiple times they had a guy that should have had a touchdown in the back of the end zone, but they couldn't, it was too far and they couldn't get both feet down in bounds,
Mhm.
just slightly off, and it cost the Jags on Sunday.
Yeah, I think there's some little tweaks that need to be made in their game that'll help them out. I do think there was a bit of a morale boost and definitely a talent boost with Chris Jones getting his contract and
Yeah,
coming back for Kansas City. I think that might have been the difference there because it's not like Kansas City played well.
yeah.
They
Chris
just
Jones was great. A 1.5 sacks and multiple tip passes. Like Chris Jones, the numbers don't do it justice how impactful he is. And him being on the field played a major part in limiting the Jags to just 9 points.
Yeah, he had a big sack on 4th and 5 and then put up some pressure on a 3rd and 14.
Yeah.
He's definitely been doing really well in those 3rd and 4th downs since he's come back.
But
So I mean he's handling and he handled Harrison really well too.
yeah, and but this game doesn't change my opinion of either of these two teams. I still think we could see a rematch of these two in the AFC Championship game or deep in the playoffs. I still think Trevor Lawrence has a great season, just not one of his better games on Sunday.
Yeah, I think it was just a bad week for him. I mean, that was his second fewest points scored by the Jags since Doug Peterson came to town. So I think it was just an off week and they've got plenty of time to recover. I mean, they're starting the season 1-1, which is not a bad place to be.
Yeah, plus it was really hot. I think some people said it was like damn near 120, it felt like on the field.
Yeah, that would I would just be in the locker room at that point. I'm all set.
um, Here's another game where we pick the opposite, Chargers Titans. And this is I want to talk a little bit about this, just the mentality going into this game because all the national media guys just assume the Chargers are going to win this game. And this is a flawed thinking in my opinion because they look at Justin Herbert and the weapons he has and say the Chargers should win the majority of the games they play. And in their head, the Chargers are like a 12 or 11 win team. And I don't see that at all. Like, Herbert's very talented, but this team constantly hurts itself and makes mistakes. And defensively, they're not great. Even though they've got Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Derwin James, they don't play up to their potential ever, very rarely.
I I
And
gotta argue with you there. I think if Austin Eckler had been in that game, they would have easily won it. I mean, it was an overtime game. Like, obviously, they were pretty evenly matched, and their highest scorer was out with an ankle injury. So,
well,
had he been in the
absolutely.
game,
Absolutely, Austin Eckler being out definitely helps the Titans. But also to the flip side, they look at Ryan Tannehill throwing 3 picks in week 1 and say, "Oh, well, Ryan Tannehill's a terrible quarterback." And as someone who's watched the Titans closely, I disagree with that strongly. Like Tannehill has taken this Titans team to the AFC Championship game. Yeah, he had a bad week 1, but that's why I picked the Titans because Tannehill isn't going to throw 3 picks every week. He's going to bounce back, and he had multiple deep balls to Traylon Burks, clutch throws to DeAndre Hopkins. He's got weapons around him. People need to stop sleeping on this Titans team,
I'm
in
gonna
my opinion.
I'm gonna argue with you a little bit there. I
All
like
right.
Hill. He's got the talent. They don't take enough chances. Most of his passes were very short, chip shots, safe plays. I mean, he had 246 yards and a touchdown, which looks great, but half of those yards were from two plays.
Yeah, but
I
I
mean,
mean,
there was no reason they weren't making more shots downfield. Like the Chargers defense would have let them. I mean, but they just weren't risking anything. They weren't trying. I feel like that game should have been like it should have never gone to overtime. The Titans should have had that in the bag, but they were playing very safe. And I would like to see a little bit more gumption from them next week for sure.
I agree, but you also have to take into consideration that sometimes teams fall in love with taking the deep shots, and it comes back to bite them. How many times we saw it in that Chiefs Jags game where, and we saw it with the Jets Bills game where Mahomes and Josh Allen are forcing deep balls into double coverage and getting picked off, right? So you have
Yeah.
to be selective with your deep shots. And otherwise, it's like a long punt, and you're just giving the ball away. You're giving free momentum away. I also think the Titans still like to play run first, still like to play through Derrick Henry, which I think they should because he's still a monster. I mean, he combined for damn near 2,000 yards last year. So you still got to feed Derrick Henry. He goes for 95 yards and a touchdown in this game. Um, Austin Eckler being out 100% is a big deal. But we knew that going into this game. We knew Eckler wasn't going to play. And I just, I think the national media overhypes the Chargers and underrates the Titans, in my opinion.
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. But I mean, you talk about Henry. What about DeAndre Hopkins? How are you not going to feed DeAndre Hopkins?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to get the ball in DeAndre Hopkins' hands. And I think Tannehill, like Tannehill didn't play hardly at all in the preseason, neither did D Hop. So they're still figuring each other out, still gaining that chemistry in week 2. And I think the entire goal with D Hop is to be on the same page come November, December, January. That's the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah, I mean, they'll definitely keep a spot between now and then, but that's when they need to pull together and come through.
Yeah, I agree. Um, let's go to my Chicago Bears on the road against Tampa. I had no faith in my Bears in this game. You chose the Bucks as well. We were both right. The Bucks win 27-17, and this game did a lot to show me and Bears fans how incompetent this coaching staff really is. It really showed Luke Getsy. So here's a sequence from this game. The Bears had the ball inside their own 20, and Luke Getsy, the OC, calls 3 straight screen pass plays. The exact same play, the exact same formation, everything the exact same. By the third time they ran it, linebacker Levante David said, quote, everyone knew what was coming. And Shaq Barrett was there for the easy interception and pick six. Uh, what the hell, Luke Getsy? Like, are you kidding me? You know, so Justin Fields played bad. A lot of people want to point to Justin Fields as being the reason why they lost, but Fields is flawed, absolutely. But it starts with coaching and not only on offense but on defense as well. The Bears are going to be bad this year. What did you think from this game?
I mean, the play calling was stale. It was obvious. It was predictable. Your
Yep,
quarterback was sacked 5, 6 times.
running for his life. Yeah.
Yeah, he was under pressure. He was sacked. He was banged up. He looked tired. I mean, and coming against a team, I mean, Baker Mayfield was amazing. Like he
He
played
played
so
great.
well.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted for him. That's what I wanted for him the past few years. I don't think his two previous locations have taken advantage of his talents or supported him in the way that he needed. So it's really nice for me to see him playing to his potential. I mean, Tom Brady never started a season in Tampa 2-0 without throwing an interception in either game.
Yeah.
So it's pretty
We,
cool to see someone that a lot of people doubt playing really well. And Mike Evans was insane. I mean, I
yeah.
know the Bears defense didn't play great, but man, Tampa Bay took advantage of any discrepancies they had and just ran over them. Um, there
Yeah.
was that 103 scrimmage yards that came from Rashad White as well. And I think he was a key playmaker that I know he's good, but I wasn't expecting him to be that good. There were quite a few plays where he really impressed me.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there were some red zone issues that I don't want to gloss over. Tampa Bay was pretty disappointing in the red zone. Obviously, they weren't playing a team that was going to make that an issue, but that's going to be something when they play a team better matched, that red zone situation is going to need to be fixed, or that could have been against them pretty easily.
Yeah. And, in talking about how bad the Bears are, we can't get lost in how well Baker Mayfield has been playing so far this year. And to have the Bucks at a 2-0 start is great. Nobody had the Bucks starting 2-0, and here they are. And so, can they make a run at that division? But the Saints are 2-0, the Falcons are 2-0, and a division that we thought was going to be bad, maybe it ends up being pretty competitive.
I would just like to say I had the Bucks going 2-0 to start the season. So you say nobody, but I had that one picked. So I just want to
Yeah.
clarify that for future record. But yeah, I mean, that Bucks offense putting up 437 yards, that's beautiful.
Hmm.
Going 1-4 in the red zone, not so much. So we definitely can highlight where their issues are and where they need to work moving forward. But that division race is going to be so fun to watch coming down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And credits to, like you said, Rashad White. He's not a household name yet. He's still pretty young in his second year. That's going to be a guy I think that people are going to know a lot more about soon. I think that
Mhm.
he's going to keep playing at a high level and will become a household name. Now, the Bears lose their 12th straight game. Terrible streak they're on right now. And the Bears have not won a football game since trading Roquan Smith.
Hmm. Wow.
So I'll just just a little nugget there for Bears Twitter, who said good riddance. Roquan Smith is quote Baltimore's problem now. Uh I would love to have the problem of Roquan Smith on my team because the Ravens are not in a 12-game losing streak and they're actually a top 5 defense, so
Mm, man.
you don't trade away your best player on the entire team and get better ever.
No, no, unless they're one of those players that is all drama in the locker room and performs on the field. Like if they're
Yeah,
causing some, personnel issues and tensions, maybe. Because
yeah.
I know we've seen a couple players historically that cannot get their lives together and cause a
Like
lot of drama.
Antonio Brown or
But
something like that.
yep.
Yeah.
But in that situation, I don't think that was on Roquan. So I mean, karma, I guess.
Yep.
So
Hey.
speaking of karma, I know you and I had this game picked a bit differently, but we both said the Giants were going to come back really strong this week and pull off a win. We had them winning by much more than 3 points, but we were still right about the overall pick. But the Cardinals played a bit better than we thought. How are you feeling about Daniel Jones' rally there?
So thank God he rallied. I picked the Giants to win 40-0. I wanted them to, they got beat 40-0 in week 1, so I thought it'd be pretty cool to be 40-40 going into week 3. And the Cardinals are terrible. So this is a team that you should be able to beat 40-0. Credit to Josh Dobbs and the Cardinals. They got out to a 20-0 halftime lead. And at that point, the Giants, through the first 6 quarters of the 2023 season, had been outscored 60-0.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was looking rough. And I thought they were gonna rally and come back. I had them putting up 30 points. I was 1 point off.
Yeah.
Granted, I underestimated the Cardinals by 18 points. But
Yeah.
it was really nice to see them rally and come back. I mean, they found a rhythm and that 3-play third quarter opener Saquon Barkley looked beautiful. I mean, that 75-yard drive was gorgeous. I have no complaints about that. That was exactly as, football should be written. It looked great. Isaiah Hodgins played really well. Um, I mean, their kicker was on point. I think they might have found their rhythm. It'll be interesting to see how their next few games go for them. But let's talk about Arizona's offense. They came in hot, they played well, and then around the third quarter, it just went down the drain. What do you think happened?
I just think that's who they are. I don't think they're very talented. I know James Conner is decent, 23 carries for 106 yards. Josh Dobbs had a good game with no turnovers, 2 touchdowns, but the Cardinals are not very talented. And the Giants should beat this team badly. The Giants should beat them by 3 scores. The fact that the Cardinals allowed the Giants to come back and win shows you right there how bad this Cardinals team is. The Giants the Giants being down 20-0 at halftime, the game should have been over. The Cardinals should have been able to survive any comeback attempt, but the Giants just the momentum turned, and then the Cardinals didn't really put up much of a resistance. Credit to the Giants. If they had lost that game, then it would have been really bad this week. And then you're going to play the Niners in week 3, which is probably a loss. So you don't want to start the season 0-3. So a great job of saving the start to the season, getting a 1-1. I know it was ugly, but you got the win. And I have no faith in the Cardinals. Like I said, I think the Cardinals win 2 or 3 games this year. I think they're tanking on purpose. I think they want Caleb Williams out of USC.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they need to tank that hard. It's a little obvious at this point.
It
But
is.
yeah, I mean, the Giants defense woke up in that third quarter finally. Uh,
Yeah.
but that was the Giants' largest comeback in the Super Bowl era.
Yeah.
So it was nice because, I'll root for whatever team I pick. Like I can get emotionally invested in any game and I'll just be yelling at the TV. But that was a fun one for someone who picked against the Cardinals to watch their just falling apart in that third and fourth
Mhm.
quarter. It was pretty fun.
And it sucks though in the process. Towards the end of that game, the Giants lose Saquon Barkley, a sprained
Mhm.
ankle. He's week to week, but the Giants said today that they're not ruling him out for Thursday night. They say Saquon is what crazy ability to recover, and so maybe he can be able to play. I don't expect him to play Thursday night, but if he only misses 1 game, that's not too bad.
Yeah, I wouldn't be pushing him to play. I would give him a full week off, especially on a short rest week like that. I would
Yeah.
absolutely not let him play, regardless of if they think he's okay to, or if he thinks he's okay to. Sit your ass out, take at least a week and recover. That's
Yep.
far too short of a turnaround.
Yeah, and you're gonna lose the 49ers anyways, Giants. Just sit Saquon out for that one
Yep.
and get him back in week 4.
Yeah, don't even try in that one because we know how that one's gonna end up.
Yep.
Um, I mean, we both knew how the game against the Rams was gonna go. We both nailed that one. Um,
Yeah. Uh yeah, 49ers go into SoFi, go into LA. Actually a somewhat competitive game, more competitive than I would have thought. And
yeah,
I do think the Rams are better than we thought going to this year, or at least that I thought. I had this team winning 6 or 7 games. They look better than that. The 49ers are legit one of the best teams in the entire league. They win 30-23. Once again, the old narrative. What cost the Rams in the end? 2 Matthew Stafford interceptions.
yeah, which is disappointing too because I mean his receivers. I mean Puka Nacua played so great. He broke, or he I guess he's tied for an NFL record. Um,
He's tied for that. I can't
yeah.
imagine.
Did he
I
break the record? I thought the
I
record was
think
24. I can't remember if he got 24 or 25 catches
he
in
got
his first few
25.
games. 25.
Yeah,
Okay, so he broke the record. Okay,
yeah.
I hadn't pinned down that stat before we started recording. But yeah, he broke the NFL record for receivers drafted outside of the first round for the most receptions in their first 2 games. Like he played so well. So
Yeah.
for his sake, I mean, they should have won that game. But Matt Stafford, you can take the man out of Detroit, but we've seen how that plays out. So that's really disappointing for him. And then I mean, their coverage, their one-on-one coverage, Tutu Atwell played so well too. So pretty disappointing for the Rams to, falter there, especially when they started out the game. I mean, it was clearly in the bag for them. The first 28 minutes of that game, the Rams were absolutely going to win, and they just let it fall apart like they do, like Matt Stafford teams do. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but Brock Purdy's downfield inaccuracy was a bit scary to watch. He was trying to pass the ball to the Rams.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Brock Purdy? Because to me, I still think he's overachieving. I mean, for a seventh round pick, Mr. Irrelevant, he didn't throw for any touchdowns, but no turnovers. He could have, but didn't. And I mean, he just seems to be a great fit in this offense and get the most out of the 49ers offense, don't you think?
I think he's a good fit. There were at least four overthrown deep balls in that
Yeah.
game that, I
Yeah.
mean, the game should have been in the bag. There was one that should have been a touchdown pass to Brandon Ayuk that I was stoked for because I thought he was going to catch it, and it was just overthrown.
Hmm.
And my fantasy team and I were kind of annoyed with that. But I think he's overthinking it a little bit because I mean, obviously he has the arm. He's overthrowing receivers by 10 yards. He just needs to relax a little bit and let the game come to him a bit. I think he gets in his head too much, but he is a great fit for them. And I think they're definitely coaching him to where he needs to be a Super Bowl contending quarterback. And I'm excited to see where they go because he's a likable guy, and Mr. Irrelevant playing well is amazing. It's such a good story. It's great to watch, especially when you're, playing a team that has a severely overhyped quarterback. It's nice to see someone who has been underhyped most of his career playing at such a high level without all of that
Yeah.
chatter behind
Yeah.
him.
100%. Here's a little what if question for you. So, right before the season started, Mike Shanahan went on a podcast and said that 2017, before the season started, or actually before the draft, the 49ers offered their first overall or first round pick, which was a third overall pick, to the or fourth overall pick um to the Redskins for Kirk Cousins, and they turned him down. What do you think about that? What if? What if the Niners had traded for Kirk Cousins in 2017
I
and
mean,
a first round pick too?
we wouldn't have had the you like that season, would we?
No,
I
but
don't know.
I mean, he would have more success in San Francisco, don't you think?
I think he would have had more success, but I also think that he's a great fit in Minnesota, a better
Yeah,
fit than he was in Washington. And I like Brock Purdy with the coaching staff in San Francisco. I
yeah,
think they're a great fit, and I think they're gonna stick together and keep winning for the next few years.
yeah. I
Um,
agree with that.
One of my favorite things in the game was Christian McCaffrey top speed of 20.92 miles per hour in his 50-yard run, which was his fastest speed as a ball carrier since week 8 of 2019. So
Wow.
it's nice to see him as, his career is going on and he's aging a bit. I mean, he can still do stuff he was doing 4 years ago. And he's one of those running backs that he's always producing when he's healthy. But it's nice to see him still playing to that optimal level that we know he has in him for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's come back from major injury before, and so showing that he's still got it, and he seems to be very healthy right now and playing at his best level, and such a great addition for the 49ers with that midseason trade, huh?
Yeah, for sure. I think that was a very smart move on their part.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
speaking of smart moves, before the games kicked off, you weren't trusting Dallas's defense against the Jets, and you switched your pick on Sunday morning from Dallas to New York. How are you feeling about that now?
so I'll go into my thought process here. So we've seen Dak Prescott have bad games and throw interceptions and throw games away before. and we're banking on or believing. I mean, so Josh Allen threw 4 picks in week 1 against this Jets defense. I was banking on the Jets being a top 5 defense, Sauce Gardner shutting down CeeDee Lamb, and Zach Wilson, not Zach Wilson winning the game, but playing, playing decent, protecting the football, and letting the running backs Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook kind of carry them to a win in a low scoring game. Um, the Cowboys are great. All right, we got to start giving the Cowboys their credit. The whole doomsday defense thing is looking legit. Dan Quinn running it. Dan Quinn's a hell of a defensive coordinator. You got Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Trayvon Diggs. They're great. And Micah Parsons is drawing some Lawrence Taylor comparisons.
Yeah,
So,
definitely defensive player of the year material right there. He has been
yeah,
playing so well.
yeah,
He's been crazy to watch, and I mean, stripped the ball off Dalvin Cook, which is impressive.
yeah.
So that right there says plenty. I think it came down to, dare I say it, Dallas's offense, though. I mean, they were on the field 45 minutes of the game.
Mm-hmm. And
That's
yeah.
insane.
Well, credit to Mike McCarthy. He seems to be play calling in a way that benefits the defense, running the ball a lot, being balanced on offense, and not putting Dak Prescott. I mean, we've seen games in the past where they had Dak Prescott throwing it 40, 50 times a game, right?
Hmm.
And they're not doing that this year. They're playing to the strengths of the defense. They're being balanced on offense. And then first of all, why aren't the Jets just putting Sauce Gardner on CeeDee Lamb the whole time? If you got a corner at the elite level of Sauce Gardner, why
Hmm.
wouldn't you just go one-on-one with CD?
I don't, and you and I were excited about that matchup before the game, and I don't know why it didn't happen more during the game.
Yeah.
Like that would have,
Well,
it was such a great matchup. Like I just don't know what they were thinking there. And I mean, we have to give Prescott credit. I know they weren't
yeah,
throwing it deep the whole game, but his
yeah,
first 13 attempts were completions.
yeah.
Yeah,
He's playing great.
he played
Got it.
so well. And like traditionally, people like to hate on the Cowboys, but I mean, there's not a lot to hate on in that game. They played really well. Their biggest issue was, again, these high achieving teams' performance in the red zone. They went 2 of 6,
Hmm.
4 consecutive field goal drives, which obviously, I mean, they won by 20. Um, so not really an issue yet, but it could, I mean, playing the right team, that could be an issue.
Yeah, and this game wasn't a blowout until late, until the fourth quarter, really. And that's when we started to see Zach Wilson throwing the game away with his interceptions. This game was 10-7 Cowboys, and even 18-10, still a one-score game, but it started pulling away later. And that's when I think Zach Wilson started forcing it, started turning the ball over.
Do you think if Aaron Rodgers was still in this game that they would have won, or do you think Dallas would have had it regardless?
If Aaron Rodgers plays, I mean, it's coming down to the wire. Aaron Rodgers gives you the chance. I don't care what defense you got. With those weapons around Aaron Rodgers, he gives you a chance to win any game. And I think the defense, think about it from a defensive mentality. When you got Aaron Rodgers on the other side, you're going all out. You're trying to keep the score down because you know Rodgers can win you the game. When Zach Wilson's over here throwing picks, where's your confidence level at, you know?
Yeah, and you and I talked about this in the podcast on Friday. I was really excited to see this matchup. Aaron Rodgers going back, playing against McCarthy.
Yep.
McCarthy knows all of Rodgers' tricks, but Aaron's on a new team with new tricks. I was super excited to see that combination again and to see what happened there. So I was pretty disappointed there.
Yeah, but I got to take my
So
L on that pick. I was definitely wrong.
we pretty much evened out this week. I think I beat you on our one tiebreaker, but we were a bit of a mess this week. So
Yeah,
lots
but
of close games though.
I'm
There
coming for
were
a win in week 3. Just be prepared.
all right, we'll see. Speaking of people coming for the win, Denver tried to come for the win. They came back from an 11-point deficit. They got the field goal, they got the touchdown, and then failed the 2-point conversion to lose the game by 2. I was excited for that because I thought it was going to be a repeat of the Colorado Buffs, down
Hmm.
11, got the field goal, got the touchdown, got the 2-point conversion into overtime. I thought there was some Rocky Mountain magic happening, and it didn't. So I was pretty disappointed in that because that would have been amazing for the state of Colorado, and back to back professional and college games. How do you feel about that game?
Well, I think that there was a pretty obvious defensive pass interference missed on that 2-point conversion, first of all.
Yeah, agreed. I try not to blame losses on refs. My husband, a Broncos fan, said Denver didn't deserve to win that game anyway, because it
Yeah,
shouldn't have come down to the wire like that. Like there were
yeah.
many other opportunities for them to stay in that game and stop Washington, and they didn't. But yeah, refs shouldn't be deciding games like that.
I mean, so both are right. Both things are right. It should have been a pass interference on the 2-point conversion, absolutely, just because it was. But at the same time, the Broncos had no business being in that game. They needed a crazy Hail Mary just to get there, and they blew a 21-3 lead. Like in the first half, it looked like the Broncos were going to run away with this game.
It's crazy
And
to me that there were two separate teams in each half of the game. Like Denver was all offense. They were amazing in the first half. And then the second half, it was a completely different team. And same for the Commanders. The first
yeah,
half of the game, they were a mess. I don't know what they were doing. And then the second half, like, oh, that's an elite team all of a sudden. So I don't know what happened during halftime, but it was very, very much a tale of two teams on both sides of the ball.
yeah, it's one of those games it's hard to really understand, but you just got to give credit to the Commanders for coming back, surviving that early onslaught and rallying and going up 11, and they needed all 11 because the Broncos almost sent it to overtime. But Sam Howell played pretty well, and credit to Eric Bieniemy, who has come in and got this offense playing better and has the Commanders sitting at 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Howell's the first Commanders quarterback to win his first three starts since 1950. So
Wow.
it's definitely a new era for them. And their defensive front four is insane, especially with the return of Chase Young. Oh
Yeah.
my God, I mean, they are just running the field right there. They look so good. And I think that definitely swayed the game and kind of stopped that comeback attempt a bit too, because I mean, I've got my favorite defenses, and I definitely didn't have them ranked in my top five, but I'm reevaluating a bit because that Washington defense is quite impressive.
Yeah, I mean it's been a while since we've seen him healthy and all on the field, and Chase Young's played so sparingly,
Hmm.
since his rookie year, but it was nice to see him back on the field, and it goes to show you when they're all healthy and all on the field together how nasty they can be.
Yeah, 7 sacks against Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
It was impressive for
crazy.
sure.
Let's go to Sunday Night Football with the Dolphins at the Patriots in Foxborough. I picked the Patriots to win this because they're at home. I know the Dolphins are looking really good, and I expected the Patriots to bounce back. They started out so poorly against the Eagles and then had multiple chances to win that game and didn't get it done. So with them being at home against the Dolphins, a division rivalry, I expected them to find a way to get it done. But they got out, they're down 17-3 at halftime. The Dolphins really dominated the game, but the Patriots were able to hang in there, keep it a one-score game in the final minutes, and I think a couple bad spots. The one where Bill Belichick challenged, still didn't get it, and then the final one on that fourth down with the lateral, with that offensive lineman that almost picked up the first down. One of the crazier plays we've seen. Great game. Tua and the Dolphins played really well, though. Tua getting rid of the ball quick seems to be working for that Dolphins offense.
I agree. And I gotta put a shout out to New England here. Tyreek Hill was insane in week one, and the
Hmm.
Patriots limited him severely. He barely produced anything. I think he had 40 yards in the game. So at least, their defense is doing their job, but Raheem Mostert is my favorite offseason pickup for Miami. He is amazing. I mean, he filled in wherever Tyreek was covered, and he had what did he have? 215 what did he have? 121 rushing yards by himself. Um,
Hmm.
it was a great game for him, and he definitely showed that he can be where he needs to be when Tyreek Hill is covered really well. But the Patriots made a lot of mistakes. I think it comes down to that. I
Yeah.
mean, they shouldn't have started out in that hole. Demario Douglas, rookie, fumbled the ball in the first quarter, and that just kind of set up a landslide there. And it was a hard hole to dig out of, as we saw.
Yeah, some bad penalties, some bad mistakes. You expect more out of a Bill Belichick coach team, but I think they are getting better. They're right there. They've had opportunities to win both their games so far against two very good teams and didn't quite get it done. We'll see if they can get that fixed. The two things that I did like was the blocked field goal, which was a
Mhm.
momentum sparker for the Patriots. And when the Patriots are at their best, Bill Belichick always gets something out of the special teams. And so that was encouraging to see. And then rookie Christian Gonzalez with a really nice interception in this game as well. So the Patriots are never going to be, I don't think, this explosive offense that's going to put up a ton of points. So they need their defense, they need their special teams, and they need to protect the ball and not shoot themselves in the foot. And they've done a little bit too much shooting themselves in the foot in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, they only averaged 4.1 yards per play.
Hmm.
And that's I mean that can get you where you need to be if you're not playing against an explosive offense, which they were.
Yeah,
So they're gonna start the season 0-2, and that'll be the first time in 20 plus years that they've started the season there. And we'll see if they can dig out of it or not. Mac Jones needs to protect the ball a bit better, and his O line needs to protect him a bit better.
yeah,
Um, but moving forward, it'll be interesting to see if they can climb out of that hole in their division, or if the Bills are going to run away with it.
yeah, absolutely. And the Dolphins too. The Dolphins are 2-0, and we'll see how much, if the Dolphins, if Tua can stay healthy, how far this team can actually go.
Yeah, that's a big if though. We've seen how that happens year after year, so I'm
Yeah.
not putting my faith there. All right,
uh,
you want to talk Monday Night Football?
yeah, and again, I didn't like two games on at the same time. I don't really get the point of that. I was watching Steelers Browns, and it's like they got half a screen of one game and half the screen of the other. Like NFL is common sense. Like do one game and then the other game. Like I don't understand two games at once.
Yeah, I think their point is to let viewers kind of choose their game. They picked two very different games. I mean, they're not, in the same
Yeah.
division. They tried to like split the audiences. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. My issue is they talk a big game about how they want less player injuries and they want players to have more rest time and longer weeks, and there are more middle of the week games.
Yeah. No, I
That
mean,
doesn't make any sense to me. And there's been a lot of discussions about turf fields causing more injuries, and there were some injuries this week that weren't on turf fields. So
hmm,
it's interesting to me that the last three Monday night football, I mean, well, technically the last four Monday night football games, there have been three maybe career-ending injuries. I mean, Damar Hamlin came back, Aaron Rodgers, we will see what happens with his Achilles. Chubb's knee has already been rebuilt once when he was in college. Who knows if that'll be, a possibility moving forward or if that's the career for him. And
yeah.
then there was an ankle injury as well in the Carolina game. But it was a good time to watch football. I mean, it was entertaining, but that injury definitely changed my feelings about the games for sure.
Yeah. We'll talk. So Saints, Panthers, and Carolina, like you mentioned, Carolina's already pretty injury hit. Corner J.C. Horn is on injured reserve. Now you put linebacker Shaq Thompson out for the season, so they're battling with that. They fall to 0-2. Saints get the win. Uh, Kind of a sloppy game, but the Saints pulled it out, and I think that's the right result. Like the Saints are the better team. They got the experienced quarterback. I think the Saints are a contender to win that division, and the Panthers are going to be a work in progress with a young quarterback that is going to have quite a bit of growing pains, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Saints had the same issues they had last week. They start out offensively great and then they stall in the red zone. Chris Olave helped with their first score of the game and got the ball rolling. But it's frustrating for me watching these teams fly down the field and then just flicker out in the red zone every time.
Yeah.
So that game should have been a much higher scoring game had the Saints produced better in the red zone. Um, and Bryce Young, we like him. He's fun to watch. It was definitely another rough week for him. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
He overthrew open receivers a few times. I
Yeah.
was cringing pretty hard at that. He fumbled the ball once. It should have been twice. But it was bad. I mean, they were 4 for 14 on third down.
Yeah.
That's
And yeah, and to that point about what you say about teams going up and down the field but then struggling in the red zone, that is how defensive coordinators approach the game now, 100%. They're like, look, we'll give up the most yards in the NFL. We don't care. It's all about what do we do in the red zone? Can we limit you to 3 or 0? And nowadays, with more teams going for it on fourth downs down there, you can get away with a team going 90 yards down the field and coming away with 0 points.
yeah.
So defensive coordinators have just put their singular focus on red zone stops. Hold them to 3 or 0.
Yeah, and I think that Adam Thielen is a great addition for their team.
Hmm.
Obviously not enough, but I mean he got the touchdown and the 2-point conversion. So that was nice to see them connecting pretty well. But it wasn't where it should be. The Panthers D kept the game pretty close. They definitely stayed in the game. That it was competitive. But I thought it was definitely going to be more of a shootout, definitely a higher scoring game there. How did you think it was going to play out score wise?
Yeah, I would have expected more points. It was kind of low scoring, sloppy early on. 6-3, like maybe even at halftime, like low scoring. But sometimes, that's just how it goes. But the Saints are the more mentally tough team. Derek Carr's a proven winner in this league, and I like where the Saints are at. I think they get to 2-0, and they're right there. And my favorite to win the division and have a home playoff game. And that's a great opportunity for Derek Carr to rewrite the narrative on his career. If he can go into New Orleans and have a lot more success than he had with the Raiders, that could be exactly what he needs. And he seems, I listened to his post game interview, and he seems to be embracing that and saying, like, we talking about the city of New Orleans and how he's all in over there. So I like what we're seeing from Derek Carr right now.
Yeah, I think the NFC South has done a great job at rehabilitating quarterbacks that people had, given up on. I mean, Baker Mayfield's
Hmm.
found a new home there. Derek Carr's found a new home there, and it's great to see them both playing well. And it'll be fun. I mean, we've got 3 2-0 teams in that division. It'll be fun to see how that divisional rivalry and race there comes down as the season wraps up.
Absolutely. What did you think of the Browns' white helmets and white jerseys?
I mean, they looked good. I liked it.
Yeah.
And we're not gonna discuss what you said they would look like during the game. But I liked it. I mean, it was sleek. I'm not a big fan of the color brown in general. It's a stupid name. Uh, but I mean, there's only so much orange you can have in the NFL. So white was a nice change.
Yeah,
Um,
they look
it's
clean.
they looked clean. It was better than the heinous red and green color rush games they forced us to deal with on Thursday nights a few years back.
Yeah.
Not the Browns, but other teams. But I can handle the white on white. I don't mind it too much. Um, that
It
was
was
the least of my concerns during that game, though.
This
Uh,
game was crazy. Like opening play of the game, a pick six, and just turnover city.
it was the messiest game. Didn't I? I compared it to watching like the Kardashians or something. It was a mess. The whole game. I mean, our commentary to each other during that game was hilarious. We were just, I mean, I was baffled at how messy it was.
Yeah. It was it's one of those games where you play on Madden and it's just turnover after turnover and you just turn it off because it's unrealistic. But it was legit. It was happening on the field and I don't know. I mean, so many turnovers, so sloppy and fun to watch though, to be honest.
Oh, it really was. I mean, the first 7 possessions of the game, there were 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions, one of which was a pick six, 1 field goal, and 1 punt. Like
Yeah.
what? It was insane. And I guess we're just going for 2 point conversions in the first and second quarter for fun now.
Yeah, and that bothers me. It's like just play football. Like if you're going for two for no reason, in my opinion, you're chasing points. And the only reason I'm chasing points is if I'm losing. There's no need. Oh, we if I kick the extra point, we're up 10-7. Let me go for two, so we're up 11-7. Literally, what is the point of that?
Yeah, I don't know. The game was fun though.
Yeah.
It was messy. Obviously not including the injury. The rest of the game was fun. I mean, it was fumble city. There were I think 6 total fumbles, a couple were recovered, but man, it was a mess. Cleveland tried very hard to lose that game and they succeeded at the end there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, Pittsburgh had an interception and a fumble in the first half, and then in the second half, they just punted the entire half of the game. So I don't really know how Pittsburgh came out with a win. But Cleveland really did not want to win the game. They did not want to keep the ball. They just kept handing it back to Pittsburgh. Um, so yeah, I think morale took a hit in Cleveland there, and they just quit going into the second half of the game.
Yeah, and a crazy stat that comes out of this game, the Steelers went into the fourth quarter trailing by 3 points. They recorded -7 offensive yards in the fourth quarter and won the game.
That's impressive. Um, TJ Watt had quite a game too.
Yeah, was that
He he played really well. He was fun to watch.
was that
You and I
his
go ahead.
somehow his what his first defensive touchdown?
His first defensive touchdown in 7 years.
That's
You and
crazy.
I were both completely baffled by that. I can't believe that's his first one.
Yeah,
'Cause, I mean, he's amazing. You would think
yeah,
that would have been, 1, 2 years into his career, but yeah, it was his first one. And I mean, just it added to the hot mess of the game. I mean, Watson completed 3 of 11 passes while under pressure. Like
yeah.
yeah, his total attempts for the night were 7 of 22.
Wow. And
Yeah,
I mean, credit to the Steelers defense. T.J. Watt, Highsmith, Alex Highsmith, even Larry Ogunjobi getting after it, getting pressure on him. Deshaun Watson is not an easy guy to get to the ground, and he was running for his life. He was trying. He was running like with his head cut off, but they did a great job of bottling him up. And then, even when he threw it, it didn't always he you know go where he wanted it to go, and just a crazy game to watch. Sucks for Nick Chubb, who's already injured that knee and suffers another major injury, the same knee. I just hope that he's obviously out for the season. I just hope he rehabs, gets better, and can be anywhere close to the weapon that he has been for so many years in this league.
yeah. I hope he makes a decision on, rehabilitation and coming back that's best for him. I mean, in some of those situations, the mental load of recovering from devastating injuries like that multiple times can be really hard on them.
Yeah.
So I hope he makes the decision that's best for him. And if he comes back, great. If he decides it's time, then that's fine too. Um,
Hmm.
but it was an interesting game. I think that Pittsburgh needs to realize some of their deficiencies.
Yeah.
They
Offensively, I don't know about this team.
they weren't doing Pickett any favors. They were not helping him at all. And for some reason, they seem to be completely blind to the fact that Najee Harris is not their better runner. Jaylen Warren is a better running back for that team, and they refuse to give him the ball, and I don't understand.
Well, I think that's debatable. I like, and that's just me. My personal. I like Najee Harris a lot, and I realize that he's not as fast as Jaylen Warren, absolutely, but he's a great between the tackles back.
He
And
is, but he's wrapped up and they still give him the ball and then it fails and they act like it's a surprise. Like there's a
well,
reason you have running back one and running back two. Like if your guys
they
get
should
stopped,
split
pass the
carries.
ball off.
Yeah, they should split carries because, and some of that, what people don't understand about the running game too is the running game can be very frustrating because you run it in between the tackles over and over again, and you keep getting stopped for 2 yards, 3 yards, 1 yard, negative yards. But it's all about being consistent, and then when you least expect it, you hit that hole and you get a big chunk. The only issue is with Najee is that he doesn't really have that speed right now for whatever reason. He used to be quicker than he is right now. And I agree with you. Dylan Warren is definitely faster. He can bounce it outside. It's an interesting point.
I I mean, obviously it depends on who they're playing, but in that situation last night, I don't understand
Yeah.
why they weren't just feeding Warren for more of the game because he got the production and Najee just wasn't able to get it. And maybe, maybe it's the speed against that Cleveland defense. Maybe it was just an off night for Najee, but it was very, very frustrating to compare how the two were performing and just see them repetitively ignore him until the
Yeah.
fourth quarter.
Yeah,
Um,
the Steelers are hard-headed. They don't like anybody telling them what to do or how to run their thing, so it could be like an ego thing too.
yeah, that's
Uh,
true. Speaking of egos, I mean, did you see Deshaun Watson after the game? He called himself out. Someone was like, "How do you feel about your play tonight?" And he said it was shit. Um, I mean, I
hey,
like the self-awareness. I
yeah, I
appreciate
like the
that.
honesty. Yeah,
Yeah.
I look. Deshaun Watson's a former national champion. He's taken the Texans to the divisional round. He knows what he has a high standard for himself. He played excellent with the Texans when healthy. That was a bad game, and he did play like shit. So I like him saying that, and he needs to play a lot better if the Browns are going to go where they want to go. And losing Nick Chubb doesn't help.
No,
Um,
because their offense has relied on him, and I think him and Kevin Stefanski are not on the same page at all. I mean, we have seen Watson play to a high level in Houston, and I think there are a few reasons that he hasn't been able to reach that level since. I think he misses, DeAndre Hopkins. I think their connection, he relied on him. I think that the Browns receiving core is not quite in sync with him. I don't think they've worked out the kinks yet.
yeah.
Um, and now with their star running back down, I'm losing faith on them being able to turn the season around because I mean they were gifted a week one win, but now I think we're going to see a lot of their deficiencies come to light.
Well, they need to bank on that defense, right? They spent big money on. They have Miles Garrett. They added Zadarius Smith, Dalvin Tomlinson. Those guys have to be game wreckers. That's where the money is on that D line. And losing Nick Chubb is a huge loss, but they are bringing in Kareem Hunt for a visit. He's been on the team before. He knows the system. That could be a good add. There's also options to make a trade if you need. Hey, offer the Colts for Jonathan Taylor. The Colts don't seem to want him, right?
Yeah.
You put Jonathan Taylor in that backfield next to Deshaun Watson, that opens a lot of things up. So I'm not gonna bury the Browns yet, even though it's not a great start, and losing Nick Chubb is extremely big loss, and Deshaun Watson hasn't looked great yet. But there's things they can do. It's only week two. There's things they can do to salvage the season, get better, and they need to start real quick though because it's a very competitive division.
Yeah, and their play calls need to be better. There were so many play calls where I was like, "What are you doing?" Like, I don't know what Stefanski was doing, but there was at least three times when I was like, why are you throwing it here? What are you, why are you,
Yeah,
what? Like,
yeah,
I was
yeah.
questioning him the entire fourth quarter. So that, that might have led to a bit of that loss of momentum there at the end, but it was
The biggest thing is that Deshaun Watson fumble return for a touchdown by TJ. That gave
yeah,
the Steelers the lead that they had been trying to get all game. And once the Steelers had the lead, it kind of felt like the momentum swing, the home crowd got into it. It kind of felt like this isn't our night, if you're a Browns fan.
yeah. I mean, it definitely wasn't. You lose Nick Chubb in a gruesome injury like that. I think
Yeah.
the wind kind of went out of their sails.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, let's end it on this. So on Friday nights we'll probably do our preview of the Sunday games. So I figure for Tuesday night, let's do Thursday night prediction. So you got the 1-1 Giants at the 2-0 49ers on Thursday night. Saquon Barkley likely out with his ankle injury. Brandon Ayuk questionable with a shoulder injury. I think we're gonna agree on this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna still, I mean, regardless of Ayuk being out, I'm just benching him in fantasy, but definitely picking the Niners to win this one. Um,
Yeah,
I think it's I mean, they're a 10-point favorite. So
yeah,
I think it's gonna be a bit closer with the injuries, but definitely a Niners win for sure.
yeah. Give me the Niners. No Saquon Barkley is a big loss for the Giants. Hopefully it's a good game, but I see no way that the Giants go into San Francisco and get the win. I think the Giants fall to 1-2. The Niners get to 3-0.
Agreed.
So, well, excellent episode. That was a lot of fun. Good shit as always, Amanda.
Yeah, I'll see you back Friday to talk about how that Niners game played out.
Hell yeah. So appreciate all the support, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, follow us all season long. We got some big ass interviews coming up next week and the following week. Stay tuned for those. You're not going to want to miss them. Good stuff, Amanda. Thanks. And appreciate everyone. Peace out.